Hey everyone, Sheree here. Today I'm going to be working on day 5 in my December album, and this page is all about our advent calendars. So my design is going to be made up of 6 little mini envelopes, and as you can see I'm using an envelope punch board to cut these out. I've started off with papers that were 4.5 by 4.5 inches, and the starting score line I think was 2 inches. So I've already cut 5 from the Noel pattern paper from the Felicity Jane Kit, and this last one is from vellum. So I'm just punching those corners, making those rounded on the top and bottom flaps. And these envelopes are approximately 3 inches by 2 3/8 of an inch. So I'm just burnishing those edges. I want to make sure it's nice and creased. And there you go, that's a little vellum envelope done. So my background piece is just plain white cardstock, and I've punched holes down the left hand side, and I just measured my page protectors in my 6x8 album to get the size for this page. So it's a full size page. I've got all of these little envelopes to go on there, so I'm just sort of roughly putting them in place. I'm not going to adhere them just yet because I wanted to work out a way that I can close these envelopes so that they're not sitting open all the time. So what I'm doing is just marking either side of the top flap, and I'm going to use a craft knife and my metal ruler just to cut a little slit into this envelope just to see if it's going to work the way I think it will. So you can see there, just making sure I've got enough space there. So when I fold it up, that top flap can just tuck inside that little slit. And I think that's going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one as a template to do one on the rest of these little envelopes. I won't be doing it on the vellum envelope though, because I don't need to reopen that one. That's going to have my day number on it. It's just these other pattern paper envelopes that I need to reopen. So I'm going ahead and sealing all of those, the bottom flaps of each of the envelopes now, and lay them out onto the page. So I've just used some red line tape to adhere all of those envelopes closed. So the top flaps can still come open, but the rest of the envelope is now adhered down. Alright, I'm just going to stitch a border around that white background cardstock, and I'm using vellum tape on my vellum envelope, and you cannot see the adhesive. I've had this vellum tape in my stash for years. I haven't seen it for a long time, but if you can find any, I would highly recommend grabbing some because you cannot see this adhesive through the vellum. So as you can see there, I'm just adding some little gold confetti stars inside my little vellum envelope there. Putting some more of that tape on the back so that it's ready to stick down onto that background paper. Just rubbing the back of that to make sure I get enough adhesive on there. Okay, so next up, I think I'm going to add letters. That's right, you can see I've already got the S on that dotty envelope, but now I'm just adding the rest of the letters for the members of my family. So just the first letter of each person's name on there, and that gold chipboard number from the Noel Kit is going to go on my vellum envelope. So I do still need to seal up this envelope so that all my little stars don't fall out. So I'm just adding that adhesive now to the top flap, and then I can stick that down because as you can see all my little stars are already falling out. Okay, so I'm just making sure that's pressed down enough, and then I can seal this little envelope up, and then I won't lose any more of those stars. Okay, so that's all of my little envelopes done now. Got my number 5 to go on the vellum envelope, and I'm just going to punch a little gold star from some gold glitter cardstock from my stash, and that's just going to go to the left of that number 5. I thought that was just the right size. Okay, so I think this is where I'm going to go ahead and adhere all of my little envelopes into place. I'm just eyeballing it. I haven't worried about measuring with my ruler where I want each one to go, but I will use my T-square ruler just to make sure this first one is nice and straight, and then I can stick the rest down. Alright, so they're all on there now. I just need to add my vellum envelope. So just doing that, just lining it up with all the rest. Okay, so then I've got my number 5 to go on there. I'm just using some red line tape on the back of that number. Make sure it's nice and strong, it won't come off. And that's just going right in the middle of that vellum envelope. Okay, so that's on there now. I am going to add that little gold star with a foam dot, and there's a reason for that which you'll see very shortly. Alright, so I do have some photos and journaling that I want to stick inside each of the envelopes. I've got a photo of each advent calendar, and I've printed out some journaling to roughly the same size as the photos. And what I'm going to do is cut out the journaling, and then I'm going to adhere the journaling to the back of each photo. Alright, so they're all cut out now, so all I need to do is make sure I've got the right journaling for the right photos and stick those back to back. So I'm just using normal double-sided tape for that. So I can stick those ones back to back now, and then I will need to just trim off the edges, anything that's hanging over the edge there. I think all of my journaling pieces were slightly larger than the photos. So that one's done, and it can just slip nicely into my little envelopes. So I'll go ahead and do each one of those. So they're all inside their little envelopes now. As you can see, I'm going to give you a closer look at that. And the top of the envelopes just tuck into those little slits that I made. Alright, so I just need one more thing to finish this page off, and I've got the words Advent Calendars printed out using my computer, and I'm just trimming it down to fit on one of the Noel tiny tags. So I've added some twine to the top of that tag as well. Just adding double-sided tape to the back of that piece, and I can stick it on, just working out which way I want the words to go. And then I can just trim off the end there that's just hanging over a little bit. And I don't need this twine to be too long, so I'm just working out how long I want it. I'm going to tie a little knot, trim off the excess, and then I'm just going to position that twine around that star, and that's just hanging from the little foam dot underneath that star. Alright, so I'm just going to let that hang free. So here's a closer look at how this has turned out. That's just going to hang free in the album, that little tag, and all of the photos are inside each envelope. So a fun interactive page to add to my album. That's going in there now. So I'm really happy with how that's turned out. I've got a full-size photo to go on my next day's page, which I'll share with you very soon. So let me know if you've got any questions. Just pop them in the comments below, and I'll go back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you again really soon. Bye for now.